Welcome to Grit, the Real Estate Growth Mindset podcast, hosted by Brian Charlesworth, founder of Sisu. Sisu provides growth automation software for real estate. You'll hear stories from real estate thought and technology leaders, team owners, and brokers on how they grew their business in a rapidly changing industry. You'll learn how to transform your brokerage and teams into a high-performing and analytics-driven business so you have a new, durable, competitive advantage against disruption in your market. So let's get right into it.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Brian Charlesworth, the founder of Sisu and your host. And today I'm here with Rivers Pearce. I met Rivers, it's probably been 2 years ago now. We were at Jeff Cohn's event, his team building summit in Omaha. Mm-hmm. And I think I'd met you maybe once before that at a KW event, but
maybe Inman, I think, here and there.
In passing at one of your BoomTown events. So when I think of you, Rivers, and I think probably a lot of the industry, they think of BoomTown. Yep. So I know you were one of the first people at BoomTown. So maybe you could just start by giving us your background. Sure. So that people know kind of your history in this industry.
Yeah, awesome. Well, first off, thanks for having me. I am, I guess, in the terms of real estate technology, a bit of a veteran in that sense. The full scope, I've been doing digital marketing and technology in one shape or fashion since about 2005. Got my start doing e-commerce and lead generation at an ad agency in Atlanta, and then moved to Charleston, South Carolina in early 2010 to join a real estate technology startup called BoomTown. I was a 10th employee, and they were looking for somebody that knew search engine marketing, basically lead generation. And that's what I did. So I was the department for a good year and a half. We were all like one person departments.
So how long ago was this?
It was March of 2010. So it's been almost 10 years. Okay. It was a 10-person company. I think BoomTown had 50 clients, and over the years, when I left about a year ago, we had 3,000 clients and 300 employees. So I think for those that know BoomTown, it's been a great success story in real estate tech, and especially in Charleston, South Carolina, one of the major players here on the tech scene. But through my time there, I brought kind of did the lead gen thing, and client services and marketing department there. And over the years, kind of moved into eventually being the head of industry and basically chief evangelist. I was just out on the road for about the last 2 years, doing about 100,000 miles on Delta, at all the conferences, all the events, speaking, panel, keynotes, blog posts, you name it, I've probably done it. And you can imagine that while my background is heavily in digital marketing and advertising and technology, by osmosis and attending every franchise, conference and masterminds and all of these things, I just learned the space inside and out. So I've never been on the real estate industry practitioner side. I've certainly bought and sold my own real estate, but or always worked with an agent, but I can also speak to operations and team structures and brokerage structures, as well as the various technology and marketing and advertising and operational components that support all of that, right? And then just in general, monitoring the space. As you know, like when BoomTown first came out, it was like us and Market Leader and Tiger Leads, and now the real estate technology space, we don't have the graph, but I mean the growth of money coming into the space has gone from nothing to like $5 billion this year. So yeah, it's exploded, and I think it's been great to be kind of on the forefront of that. Just by default, every year something new comes out, and I just happen to be involved at an early enough stage to learn and understand the core of how this all works. So anyway, happy to answer any questions. I have a lot of thoughts on the space, and I think you and I are on the same page there, that this is, I think, probably the most exciting time to be a part of this industry. It's really, really exploding, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely. It's reshaping as well. I think that can create a lot of fear, but it also creates even more opportunities. So, uh,
Absolutely.
it's interesting. When I met you, you were in that evangelist mode of
Hmm.
being out on the road, and I could tell you were just bouncing around from one event to another.
Yeah.
And anyway, however, at every event you're going to, you're there with some of the top team owners,
Yeah.
especially BoomTown focused on teams,
Hmm.
really the top team owners in the nation, right?
Yeah,
And so
for
you
sure.
talked about understanding what's working, what's not, how they run their business, all that stuff. I understand that just from my role right now. I'm looking into people's business every day and talking to them about how they're operating their business. And I know you've done the same thing. So for a lot of our listeners out there, I mean, what are some of the key things that you're seeing in the industry today that are changing? Maybe what are some of the risk factors and
Yeah.
some of the opportunities?
I mean, I think the thing, it's funny, I had a meeting with a friend who's also just started his own brokerage this morning. And he's like, well, what's your silver bullet? I was like, call your leads. Let's start at the basics. Like, there are core things that haven't changed, right? You generate business opportunities. You should follow up with them. You need to have a process and structure to do that. That's increasingly over the years become, as it takes more and more volume to get to the, closed deals, you've got to have operational infrastructure that is more and more powered by technology to do that at scale and not have to have 50 people working in an administrative role on your team. So, I mean, there's still the core of things has not changed of you generate business opportunities, you need to follow up with them and have a protocol for doing that on an ongoing basis, because as well as I do, lead gen is just a means to an end, right? You're just trying to get people into the database. That's where you make your money. Um, but I think, the bottom line, what I've been kind of preaching the last year and even more, God, for years, but it's really now is, you know, technology is essential. Has to be treated as a pillar of your business, as a partner, as a team member, whatever you want to call it. But nice to have is not an option anymore, right? That doesn't mean, I think the struggle is you tell that to someone and they are looking at Compass, or they're looking at Redfin, or even what Keller Williams and Remax have done with their tech stack. And they're saying, oh my gosh, I've got to have this end-to-end system that's all in, one system to rule them all kind of mentality. And what I'm pushing and what I'm finding is, no, you don't. And typically I'll do a project with someone and I'll look under the hood and I'll say, you actually have pretty much all you need from a technology standpoint. It's just not hooked together, right? It's just not talking to each other, or it's not funneling into a system like Sisu that actually gives you insight into all this data that you have, right? And how you visualize these processes and protocols and opportunities and wins and losses and all of these things. It's almost a mindset shift. Once the light bulb comes on, then they get it, right? And we can build you something, or you can build something out of off-the-shelf SaaS technology that powers your business in a very scalable and a budget-friendly way, where it's not that Gary Keller and Robert Refkin and these guys are like gaslighting you somehow, like you have to use their system if you're going to succeed. But that's not the case. But you do have to have technology, and you do have to have a system, and you do need to be looking at data, right? I mean, those are not nice to haves anymore. And I think it just comes down to, if you're going to compete with the people at that scale that are those franchises and those companies and the big teams and brokers, you have to be thinking in a new way and really embracing technology, bottom line.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that you've always been focused on is really being pro agent, and
Yes.
same with me, right? There are a lot of technology companies out there trying to eliminate the agent. I think that's changing in a way that my perspective of that is that the agent is not going away, and these companies that have worked on eliminating the agent are now hiring agents. I think the big change is the disruptor is not eliminating the agent so much as changing the pay of the agent.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so when you look at that, all of those companies seem to be hiring salaried agents. What do you see happening with the industry as far as that piece goes, and how do these team owners stay ahead of the industry in that aspect?
Yeah, I think what you're happening, and I'm now kind of speculating, but I think what you've got happening is there's nothing wrong if you look at Redfin, right? Redfin's doing some really cool things, and they've got some great technology, and they are an employee-based model. And there's a lot of people out there who say, well, real estate's about being independent and making as much money and no ceiling and all that. And I'm like, well, there's probably a lot of people out there that just want a job. Right? They just want to show up, get paid, and still be in real estate, and that's okay. Yeah. Right? That's fine, and I think they're starting to see success with that. I think what it boils down to, if you kind of peel it all the way back, is in our society these days we want convenience, right? On demand, push button kind of convenience level, but we also want transparency and certainty. That's out of the services that we're getting back from people, right? I open up my Uber app, I see it happening, I push a button, it happens. I know it's going to arrive, I know how much it's going to cost, and I see the whole process. Convenient, certain, transparent. I think from a real estate professional or practitioner perspective, being able to give them on the industry side, whether it's certainty and volume of leads, technology, transparency of how you run your business and commissions and things like that. But also that certainty of maybe people are moving away from being comfortable with the ups and downs of being an independent contractor. I think you don't have to move to a W-2 model by any stretch, but although there is some merit there, I think, and Redfin is proving that out. But I think that having these systems and operations, and as real estate itself becomes more operationalized, that'll create more certainty for the agent. I think the days of the kind of fly by night, don't have a CRM, just get the deals as they come kind of agent are going to go away. And if you think about it from a consumer perspective, real estate, as I said, is just getting more and more operationalized. And on one side of the spectrum, the extreme end would be Open Door, for example, right? You basically push a button, you get an offer. It is cutting out the agent per se, but and it's a small segment of the market. It's a little more expensive, but it serves its purpose. And those customers that want that kind of experience will go that direction, fully operationalized. On the other side, kind of looking at a team would be kind of the next phase of how that's happening in the general real estate world. I think that operationalization, if that's a word, that kind of mindset and how that consumers are going to expect the byproduct of that, right? And the byproduct of that is a very clean, clear, transparent, certain real estate transaction on their end. I think just the byproduct of that is that agents are going to get more of a job almost kind of experience if they're part of a team or a more professional or progressive brokerage. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things you said was that agents maybe want more certainty or are actually getting more certainty. Mm-hmm. I see that happening with team owners and brokerages as well, because now they have the tools out there to know, if I generate this many leads, this is what I can produce with my business. And they can really forecast their business in a way they never could before, right?
Absolutely. I was talking at a conference recently about this, that any other business that's not real estate that I've found is like built on data forecasting models, predictability, like actually being able to predict growth and trends.
Yep.
You have to think like that with real estate now. The technology exists to do it. The data is all there to do it. You just have to track it properly, use tools to visualize it, and then have the business and operations protocols in place to actually capitalize and exploit these, wins that you have, or trim the fat off of the problems, right? Like whatever you're doing as a result of that. But operating real estate the way it was done 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, just isn't going to scale into the future, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying you got to change entirely, but you've got to embrace this shift that has happened. It's already happened. Now it's a lot of people, I think, are just playing catch up with it.
Yeah. It's interesting. Obviously, as the CEO of CISU, a lot of our focus is really being able to help forecast and put in some of that predictive analytics so that they know what's happening with their business and can make better business decisions. Now, I was on the call yesterday with a MAPS coach. His name's Jim Gray, and he actually shared with me some things that he's actually had us build some stuff into our platform that allow him to not only forecast based off of what's under contract, but to forecast based off of when they expect the transaction to close, whether it's 1 month out, 2 months out, 3 months out, 4 months out. So it's giving us the ability to add a little bit more knowledge behind it. And anyway, just something that, I learn every day as I'm out speaking with our customers, right? So just a lot of great things out there happening that people can do to really change their business. I want to shift gears a little bit. So you have been gone from BoomTown for how long? What have you been doing?
So I left BoomTown about a year ago, full time, very amicable, have a really great relationship with those guys. Obviously, was there for a long time, helped build that company and love them. But I wanted to do some other things, kind of spread my wings a bit. And I have started quietly, I started my own consulting firm / agency / professional services group. And we are called Weightless. And so the premise there is basically that the tagline is kind of like, business is heavy enough, technology shouldn't be, right? We want to create weightless experiences of your technology infrastructure. And it's kind of getting at the core of this unsexy world that we've been talking about that absolutely is critical to running your business now. It shouldn't be this cumbersome process for your clients and for your agents and then ultimately for your clients. But, how do you create systems and architect a marketing technology or MarTech stack that just doesn't feel like this cumbersome thing to actually utilize, that ultimately, you're using it to produce value and insight. And we're building those kinds of infrastructure, for lack of a better term, for brokers, teams, agents, and working with SaaS companies and technology companies that want to work with agents and brokers and teams. But as inevitably, part of that comes with that is like, hey, yeah, we need to integrate these, 5 pieces of technology in a better way, but also that has front-end consumer design elements potentially to it. So we do front-end website design and that could be working with a platform like BoomTown or somebody's platform and just giving it a fresh coat of paint, or building a custom web or app type of experience. And then we also do some digital marketing and advertising for folks because, that's just the world, obviously, that we come from. So I've assembled a team of designers, developers, integration and API experts, and then general real estate expertise that if you think about a big brokerage, for example, there are companies out there that you can consult with, but you're starting at like $50,000 entry level pricing. And I said, well, how do you bring something that it brings, world-class expertise, not only in technology, design, digital marketing, but also real estate specific for all of those things? How do you bring that from, okay, it's a custom sort of engagement that you can have them at a few $1,000s a month, right? How do we do that? And because a team, maybe not a single agent, but a good team and a small brokerage still deserves access to that level of expertise. And that's my mission, is to democratize it a bit and kind of lean on this sharing on-demand kind of model. And that's what we're still kind of working through. So if anybody's interested in talking about it, I'd love to talk to you. We can certainly do custom engagements, but I'd really like to hear, the bottom line, and you know this, running a technology company, I talk to brokers and a lot that are like, oh, I had a developer on staff and I've now had 3 and they keep quitting. And I have to teach them real estate. And by the time I teach them real estate, they roll off the team, right? It's like, how do you have access to technology and expertise for real estate in an ongoing basis for a fraction of the cost? That's what we want to bring to the table.
Yeah. Okay, great. So you saw this need. One of the things you just brought up, I'd love to hear more about your need, but something you just brought up is real estate companies. And this could be, it sounds like you're talking about a small brokerage maybe that has a 200 to 2,000 agents. Mm-hmm. And they've had a couple on staff people that they can't keep around. Yep. And I've seen it at much higher levels where large entities have tried to build technology over and over again. And it's a very, I think the point here that you bring up and that I've definitely recognized is real estate companies are good at what they do, which is real estate.
Yes.
But as soon as they try to shift gears and get into technology, yes. Obviously there are people trying to prove this wrong today, but it's usually to this point resulted in failure, right?
Unless it's someone like Compass, KW, Remax, Redfin with hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank, right? And multi-hundred person technology teams, right? They are doing pretty well. Now they've all had some slip ups. It's that, like you're talking about, I am a 200 person, 50 person, whatever brokerage. I've built something, even down to the core. They forget, like, they don't even know necessarily that, okay, yeah, you built something, it's pretty good. Well, who's going to maintain it on a regular basis? Who's going to ensure all the APIs stay up to date? Like, then they don't, right? And what happens, you get this technology that nobody can work with over a 5-year period.
Right. I think what I see is people always put this target. Well, in 2 years, this is where we want to be. And then in 2 years, when they get there, everything else is 2 years ahead of that. Right. And so,
if not more,
so they never get to where they actually want to be.
Exactly. And so I think the premise and the argument here is that we've established the fact that technology is a must-have in real estate, right? To compete at scale into the future, you have it has to be a real pillar of your business. That means you've got to commit to the resources to make that happen. I don't think that necessarily means you've got to go find a developer, designer, real estate technology, API expertise, all, a $500,000 team, which is going to be almost impossible. So how do you bring that level of service and expertise to people that need it at a fraction of the cost? And it's almost more of an on-demand type of model. As well as I do, finding developer talent in general is hard enough, right? Even in the big cities, there's plenty of talent, but they move around quickly. They make a lot of money. Nobody's sitting there twiddling their thumbs waiting for a technology or digital marketing job, right? They're all employed. We're just trying to figure out a solution that helps a lot more people that have to deal with, like, you have to embrace this. And how do you do that, again, in a way that is in line with your business and your goals? And that maybe it's $500 a month, maybe it's $5,000 a month based on your needs, but how do you make that happen for people? And that's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay. So the hole you saw is if I'm a real estate company, smaller real estate company, and that's all relative, right? But a broker at a local level or smaller, then there's this gap of being able to really fill their technology needs. And you've seen that that's lacking. And so you've built a team that can come in and really take that on for this brokerage or for this team, make sure they have all the best technologies and that those are all communicating and handling their digital marketing and front end services. Is that an accurate description of? You
got it. That's one of the pillars. And then ultimately, though, inevitably those conversations turn into, can you also help? If we're integrating something to your website, we would like to redesign some things, or we need to, some of it's like, we don't even understand exactly what we're supposed to be doing. Right. So a lot of education, and sometimes content writing and things like that, like what can facilitate the process a little more, but it's really working with people to educate them about how to think about their business, implement new technology, tighten things up. We start talking about APIs. integration, data integrity, right? These
Yeah.
things that are critical to doing business in this day and age, whether in real estate or whatever you're doing. We just happen to work in this space, and I just have heard it time and time and time again. Not only we do understand this, but we have trouble attracting and keeping talent, all the way down to, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do, but I need to protect my business.
Yeah.
Right.
So my guess is that most of our listeners definitely have a CRM.
Yep.
Right. They definitely are signing docs with e-signature platforms, right?
Yep.
Those are things that I think have become so widely adopted that pretty much everybody successfully performing in the real estate industry has those.
Yes.
You're talking about integrating these different technologies. What are some of the technologies out there that maybe some of these guys aren't aware of that you see, that you've come across over the last year or two, that you feel can make a difference and are playing a role in maybe what you're doing in the future?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like the core, you got to have a CRM. You need to have some sort of transaction. There's e-signature, document storage, and then there's that transaction management, right? So whether you're doing an all-in-one kind of suite, a dot-loop, a BrokerMan, or a DocuSign, or SkySlope or something, or you're breaking it up into different pieces. I think what people oftentimes forget on the back end of the transaction is the management piece, the checklist software, whatever that is. That's one piece. But CRM, transaction management, back office, kind of that bleeds into one. Those are the core. And I think a product like yours, like, you've got to have some sort of data visualization, something, right? Even if it's just Google Analytics. But the days of keeping multiple Google spreadsheets and all, like, there's no need to do that. I mean, you can, it works, but let's talk, like, if you've got a CISO, why don't you use it? Right? It integrates into everything. So that is one piece. And I think some of those are the core. But then beyond that, I think you need to be looking at phone tracking software. So not dialers per se. I mean, that's fine if you're doing a high volume of rapid fire dialing, but like call tracking, like companies like CallRail or Invoca. These are not real estate specific technologies, but in a phone call based business, right? Ask any real estate agent, as long as I get them on the phone, I got them, right? Well, most people don't track any of their phone calls. Just knowing that if you're running advertising on Google and Facebook and Instagram, and you've got email marketing and Zillow and all this stuff, like, every one of those should have a trackable phone number for each, so that you want that phone ringing, right?
So just to clarify for everybody here, Rivers, what you're talking about when you're talking about tracking calls, you're talking about knowing where your inbound calls are coming from so that you know where to spend your marketing dollars.
Got it, right?
Is that correct? Okay.
What I've seen time and time again is our cost per lead is $50, hypothetically speaking. Okay. Well, what are you calculating that on? Oh, digital lead forms, online lead forms. Okay. Let's put some call tracking in place. A month later, our cost per lead is $20 now. Like, no, cost per lead's always been $20. You just weren't tracking the 150 phone calls from Google and Facebook you were getting every month. And those leads are stellar, right? And on top of that, you can go, I know that this ad drives phone calls. This ad does not. What do we learn from that, right? On the back end, so you're optimizing phone calls the same way you optimize keyword bids or a Facebook ad copy or something, right? You're optimizing against the phone call traffic. The other thing is, most of the software, you can record all of these inbound phone calls, right? So if you've got a lead concierge or an ISA or somebody answering that phone, or even an agent round robin, and you've got a script that they're supposed to use, well, you can then go through and say, all right, the agents getting these calls are closing deals or setting appointments or whatever, and these are not. Okay, why? Let's listen to them. Well, they're not going on script. And you can even take it further. I mean, it costs a little more money as you do this, but you can tell these systems, monitor for these keywords in the script that we've given you into the AI-powered kind of system, and it'll score them and say, look, these reps are not saying what they're supposed to say, right? Mm-hmm. So it's certainly a next level, but in a phone-based business, to me, it's critical. So I think that's a big one. I think visualization, like a product like yourself. The other one is people are not necessarily aware once you tell them about APIs, for example, and they understand that what APIs do. They help two pieces of technology talk to each other and then kind of do things with each other. Well, there's middleware out there like API Nation or Zapier or RealSync that's specific to the real estate space. Understanding that you can create an ecosystem for your technology by using what's called middleware, and you're just basically saying, all right, I want if a lead is created or this action happens in BoomTown or my CRM, I want it to send that information to Sisu and do something with it there, right? At least pass this information around. That's how you start to build these tech stacks that allow you to really customize it to your business. And so I think that's the one piece that really gets into the nitty gritty kind of, again, unsexy tech infrastructure world. But that's how you start tying these things together. That's how you start creating workflows and data integrity. And then it allows you down the road to say, actually, I'm not happy with this product or outgrown this product. I'm going to take it out. I'm going to put something else in and just wire it back together. And you're not interrupting this. You're not dealing with this massive workflow change adoption or anything like that, and that's what you get in the past is these people that built these end-to-end systems. Changing that is like moving a glacier, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not the world that you and I are operating in. It's like, it's more of like an engine. Like we're taking out this piece of the engine and putting a better or newer or different piece in.
Yeah, great point. So you were just talking a second ago about something that I know our customers are really, really interested in right now, which is really understanding their, cost per leads, not only cost per lead, but cost per lead per agent.
Yep.
Right. Making decisions on where to spend the dollars. And I think you just took that to the next level. I think there's a lot of people that are going to be listening to this. They're going to want to know more about that, but really measuring it at even a higher level than is being done within Sisu, right? Where you're tracking some of this stuff. And I know, Rivers, we've had conversations about adding some of this earlier tracking into Sisu as well from Google Analytics.
Yep.
So we're excited about that, but that's something that I see a lot of people, based on what I'm experiencing right now, I see a lot of people coming to you and really wanting to understand that at a deeper level.
Yeah. And, I think you and I can agree at the core, it's really not that hard to track things at that level. Let me rephrase that. To have that information to make decisions on and visualize, but you have to track it, right? And in order to track it, you have to have the right infrastructure from a technology standpoint to do it. And the days of trying to do that manually in spreadsheets and things like that are, there's no need and it's not going to scale, right? And so I like to help people put infrastructure, which is mindset and technology and operational protocols in place to track all of these things, because that's the only way to do it. And you can. So if you can, you probably should in this regard. Not everything, just because you can do something. But if you can track it, you should track it. Because the last thing you want to do, and you've been in this situation too, probably, it's like, hey, we really want to see this kind of report. And it's like, okay, well, we haven't been tracking that. So we can start today, and in 30 days, we'll be able to give you some reporting on it, right? I say, let's get it all on the table now, and we're going to track everything we can, whether you're using it tonight, today, in 30 days. What you don't want to end up is in 6 months saying, God, I'd really like to know X, Y, Z. And it's like, we don't have that data, right? So that happens a lot. And I like to get in front of all of that.
Yeah, one of the things you talk about tracking, and I think people want to automate that as much as possible, right? Therefore, we're talking about some of these middleware companies that you were talking about, such as RealSync or Zapier or API Nation. So, however, I find that a lot of the top producing teams really want their people to track rather than automate, because they feel like it really gets a commitment at a higher level. What are your thoughts around that?
I'm fine with that too. You mean like when they're dialing, they they track it manually in a CRM or something like that.
Yep. Yeah.
I think so. I think it's great. What I have seen from working with, tens of thousands of different agents over the years is it's not, it's hard to scale it because there's unpredictability in it. Some agents are great at it, and others, no matter what, will not do. They might do half of it, right? They may call half their leads, they may log half their things, but, oh, I'm busy. Oh, I was in the car. Oh, there's always an excuse. I like to create scalable operational systems and redundancy, and you can't have one bad apple literally can mess up the whole bunch when you're trying to do 10 agent data modeling, if you will. And but having them buy in but then this comes back to saying, all right, we're going to make them do this on their own, manually log this stuff. You better have some really strong, agent accountability tracking metrics in place so you can single out the ones that are not doing it. So you're just kind of shifting the tracking around a bit.
I mean, we have customers that do both, right? Both types of customers that, let's shift gears for a second. I really want to find out your take on, so in the coming years, the next couple of years, what are going to be some key things from your perspective? I know I have a very strong opinion of this, and that's our focus, but
okay.
What's your opinion of where the industry, what are some of the key things that people are going to need to do to be more efficient in their business in order to not get left behind? Because now things are moving so far and advancing so fast that if you don't stay on top of it, you could get left behind. And that's really the risk in today's industry. Yeah. Anything there that
I do. I'm trying to think of where to begin. It's a good, we could talk for hours about this.
Maybe just one or two key things that you see changing and that you think are really important for real estate teams to stay up on, to stay relevant.
Yeah, I think it comes back to getting in the mindset, and I see this a lot, and this is not necessarily technology specific. It's real estate agents, teams, brokers, whatever, they forget that they are also just as much members of this on-demand sharing mobile economy that we all live in, right? The same people that are standing outside looking at their Uber, kind of getting mad at it when they take a wrong turn, right? You go from 5 years ago saying, wait a minute, I'm going to get in somebody's car and they're going to take me where I'm going. And no, that's weird, to 5 years later, you're mad at the Uber driver for taking a left turn, and you should have taken a right turn, and it's going to take 4 minutes instead of 3 minutes to get to you, right?
Or now you're having that Uber driver pick up your kids and take them somewhere.
Right. Or you've got Lyft and Uber open at the same time. I mean, we've changed. So just that as an example, and whether it's Amazon or Netflix or any of these other things they're reshaping the way consumers do life, right? It's how we operate differently. However, as soon as they walk into the real estate office, it's like 1998 again, right? And they can't understand why somebody wouldn't want to come down and sign 100 pieces of paper, right? That's what I'm trying to get people to realize, is that if you don't wake up and start really putting yourself in your own shoes, right? You are still the same person that when you walk out of here, you're mad at Uber, or you're ordering something one click from Amazon, but you walk in the office and you're still doing things on a legal pad. It's getting that mindset shift, right? Because when you walk out the door, your consumers are, if you're in Phoenix or Atlanta or Nashville, right? You've got Compass, you got Redfin, you got Open Door, you got Zillow, you've got all of these models in maybe not in these smaller cities, but certainly in the top tier markets. Your consumers are going to come to you and say, what are you doing for me for 6%? These guys said they'd buy my house. You gave me an estimate that maybe this company over here said they'd sell it for 1%. This one over here said they do pay at closing repairs and staging for me, and all that's part of it. And you what's the value prop here? You've got to be aware that these things are happening, and if it's not about, it's about what the consumer is dealing with in the rest of the world and the rest of their life. And you've got to be able to present, with team leaders and brokers. A lot of times you see, what is the answer is, Well, I'm not in the consumer business. I'm in the agent business. I'm in the business of recruiting and retaining team members and agents. Well, that's fine. And it's true for the business model, if you will, but your agents are certainly in the consumer business, right?
Yeah.
And so it's up to you, and it's incumbent on you to give them the tool set that allows them to provide experiences for their consumers that are commensurate with Zillow and Open Door and Compass and Redfin and Keller Williams and Remax and these folks. And again, as we kind of circle back to the beginning, you don't have to have this end-to-end system, but you do have to have something that allows them to create experiences that are aligned with their consumers' way of doing life, right, and doing business.
And one of the things you just hit on is it's really, I call that convenience.
Absolutely.
Right. The consumer is moving more and more away from being maybe as price sensitive. For some people, it's price sensitivity.
Sure.
For others, it's convenience, right?
Absolutely. I would pay more to get this done quickly.
I want to be able to sell this home today and know that it's sold, but I want to be able to live here for another 45 days while I'm getting something ready, right? I mean, so anyway,
and you can do that now.
Definitely
right?
something. Yeah.
You know, it's the world is changing around us, and for years, real estate was kind of immune to that, and it's not anymore. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And you need to be thinking about how you're creating, convenient experiences and like what we say, waitlist experiences for your agents and consumers. That's just the bottom line. That's the world we live in, and it's going to take a mindset shift. And what I'm afraid of, and you and I have talked about this, in the idea around the category king, right? Once someone has been crowned the king, they usually win consumer mind share, right? Google won. And even if Bing is the best search engine on the planet, they're not going to win, right? Google has won the mind share. And in a world where Compass, KW, Redfin, Open Door, Zillow, right, that have the money to control the message and control the narrative, they are one by one picking up more and more consumer mind share. There will come a point potentially where it's like, we can't actually compete anymore. We didn't embrace this and try to get into that mind share enough, early enough. And I would hate to see, the worst case scenario where you've got a real estate industry that has got like 4 or 5 major players and that's it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So somebody there's no doubt all of those people I just mentioned are trying to be the category king. They've all explicitly said it. And so I don't know, it's embracing that kind of mindset. And how do you operate in that world? There's a ton of business still outside of they're going to get a 20% of the market share. Okay. Well, there's still a lot of opportunity for the folks that embrace this. And there's no reason you can't be very successful doing real estate.
Well, Rivers, I could talk to you all day, and I think everyone would love to keep hearing more of your thought behind some of this stuff. But I'm sure a lot of these people are going to want to call you. How do they get a hold of you? Mm-hmm. Let's start with that. I just have a couple questions here to wrap up. Mm-hmm. But what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Couple different ways. So the website is Go Waitlist. It's GOW, the number 8, LESS, gowaitlist.com. You can search for me. I've got a pretty unique name, Rivers Pearce. Just Google me. You'll get in touch, I'm sure. Or you can send me a direct email, rivers@gowaitlist.com. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Find me. I'm around. Okay. I can give you my number, whatever you want.
I noticed you said Google you, not Bing you. So
exactly right. But yeah, I'm around. I'm at a lot of conferences and whatnot. But I'd love to talk to you. I like being fully transparent. We're building something new, and we're still figuring some of it out. And so I want to find partners that are interested in getting a really good deal on pricing potentially. And helping us figure some of this out, because everybody's business is different, and we want to figure out how we can bring a service that provides value for people in a budget and a way that makes sense for them.
Great. So if you were to just give one piece of advice, just what would it be? What's like the number one thing you would say to people right now with where we're at in this industry?
I'm sorry, somebody just turned on a leaf blower outside my window.
Not a problem.
All right. Again, I said at the beginning, follow up with your leads. I mean, do the core business things that you need to do. A couple of things, though.
Or make sure your agents are following up with their leads. I guess.
Right. Like accountability, right?
Yeah.
Is you've got to embrace technology as a team member, a pillar of your business. It's not an afterthought. As a broker, I know your margins are thin. Even as a team leader, you do have thin margins. It's not a nice to have. If you offer subpar technology to your agents, it's going to be subpar experiences for the consumer. It doesn't create future success. So you've got to shift the mindset, embrace it, and be willing to say, yes, I'm in. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do, and that's okay. We've got people out here that can help you. If I can't, I'm sure somebody in my network can. Same for you. And then from there, it's making that commitment and then implementing the infrastructure that allows you to create convenience, certainty, transparency, and predictability for your business. And without that, again, if you look at the people you're going up against, the major players, the big brokers, the successful teams, and then the franchises and the Zillows and Open Doors of the world, they're thinking like this. They've got massive commitments to technology, to marketing, to infrastructure, to operations. They're certainly forecasting their growth, right? Like, you've got to embrace that kind of mindset, whether you're a 5-person team, a 500-person brokerage, or just starting out. So
it's great advice. The last thing I wanted to ask you is just, you have a favorite book that you've read over the last few years or even the last 20 years that you hands out that you suggest everyone get their hands on that?
I really like Mindset. If you've read Mindset, what's her name? Carol Dweck, I believe. That one was really impactful for me. I think Tom Ferry turned me on to that, but basically gets you thinking into growth mindset instead of a limited, those limiting beliefs kind of mindset, getting into a growth mindset. The other one recently you turned me on to was Play Bigger.
Okay.
I love that book. I just in the past 6 months or so, that one's been really good, is thinking about category kings and doing something different. And so those are my two for right now, for sure.
Yeah, great. So that's great. If you're out there and you've never read a book on growth mindset, there are several of them out there. Make sure and get a hold of those. But Mindset being one of them, certainly can change the way you're thinking and eliminate those limiting beliefs we have and the beliefs that we have about failure, right? I mean, failing is basically a roadmap to success, right?
Absolutely.
The more you fail, the more you have success.
And I'll tell you this, I tell people a lot when they hire me just as a consultant, like, you're hiring all the mistakes I've made, right? So you don't get to make them, right? That's part of what you're hiring.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Rivers. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sure we'll be in touch here in the coming weeks. And awesome. If I don't talk to you before Thanksgiving, enjoy your Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it, man.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Goodbye.
So there you have it. Thank you for joining us on our podcast. If you have an interest in a free 7-day trial of Sisu, make sure that you use the coupon GRIT, that's GRIT, to waive all your setup fees and receive a 10% discount on your subscription. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast and want to subscribe, search GRIT, the Real Estate Growth Mindset podcast, on iTunes. And with that, we'll catch you next time. Take care.